It's Labor Day weekend, and so happy Labor Day weekend to everyone here. For most of us, I think Labor Day becomes one of two things, right? It's either the last hurrah of summer, right? The official end of summer. So you have a backyard barbecue, you take a trip to the lake, or just a glorious 3-day weekend, right? And for some, it becomes a day when you finally, mercifully, are getting a break from a job that's been wearing you out. Maybe it's a day that you take to celebrate the dignity of work, right? But let's be honest, what we're really celebrating on Labor Day is the dignity of not working. Am I right? Because we live in a culture that treats busyness like a badge of honor, right? When somebody asks you how you are, right? If I was to ask you how you're doing or how you are, most of us, how many of us say something like, I'm so busy. And we say it with a little hint of pride in our voice, right? Oh, I'm so busy these days. And we say it with a little hint of that pride because we feel like if we're not constantly doing something, we're not valuable. We're not productive. We're not living up to our potential, right? Our calendars are packed. Our phones are always buzzing and our minds are a never-ending to-do list. The world tells us that we need to hustle. It tells us that we need to grind. It tells us that we can sleep when we're dead. And after a while, we start to believe it. But today, I want to challenge that mindset, right? Because Jesus, the one who created the heavens and the earth, the one who holds all things together, says something that is radically different. He says, come to me and I will give you rest. So the big idea that we're wrestling with this morning is this, that rest is a kingdom discipline that recenters us on Jesus. It's not a reward for our labor. It's a necessary part of our walk with Christ, right? It's a way to hit the spiritual reset button. So this morning, we're going to look at two powerful passages. The first is a familiar invitation from Jesus that's found in Matthew chapter 11. And the second is a challenging and profound word from the book of Hebrews. So I want us to start with I think the most or one of the most beautiful invitations ever spoken. And it's in Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 to 30, where Jesus says, come to me and rest. Matthew 11, 28 to 30 says this, Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. For I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So Jesus says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. Which then begs the question, who are the weary and burdened today? Well, it's not the person who works a physically demanding job, though that's certainly a part of it, right? The word used for weary in this verse is a Greek word kopiao, right? Which means to toil to the point of exhaustion, to be worn out. It's a word for people who are spiritually, emotionally, and physically drained. And I'd venture to say that's all of us, isn't it? Because our burdens might not be a sack of potatoes on our back. They're the burdens of anxiety, the weight of expectations, the constant pressure to perform, and the struggle to pretend that we have it all together. To the students and the young adults in this room, maybe your burden is the pressure to get into the right college, the fear of missing out, especially this week when you've met up with people from your classrooms and they're telling you everything that they did over summer. And there's that sense of this fear of missing out on what everybody else is doing, or the anxiety or of a future that feels so uncertain. Right? You are weary from trying to build the perfect life. To the parents and the professionals, maybe your burden is the weight of a mortgage, the stress of a demanding job, the endless cycle of carpools and laundry, or the pressure to be the perfect spouse and parent. You are weary from carrying it all. And to the seniors in the room, maybe your burden is the weight of loneliness, the grief of loss, or the physical toll of aging. You are weary from a lifetime of labor. And Jesus looks at all of us at every age and every stage, and he says, I see your weariness. I see your burden. Come to me and I will give you rest. But here's the kicker. You see, Jesus doesn't invite the self-sufficient. He doesn't say, come to me, all you who have figured it all out. He's not looking for the people who have a perfectly optimized, productive life. He's looking for the broken, the exhausted, the ones who have hit a wall and cannot go on anymore. And then he says something that seems like a paradox, right? He says, come to me and I'll give you rest. And then he says, take my yoke upon you. Why does that seem like a paradox? Because when you think about a yoke is a piece of wood that is used to connect two animals together so that they can plow a field or pull a cart. A yoke is a tool for work. So why would Jesus, in a passage about rest, offer us a yoke? Why would he say, come and rest, but hey, I got some work for you to do. Here's a yoke, put it on you. Well, because his yoke is different. He says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. This is the beauty of it. Jesus is not saying stop working. He's saying stop working alone. He's saying stop carrying a burden that was never meant for you. When you put on his yoke, you are connecting yourself to him. He does the heavy lifting. He sets the pace. He takes the lead. He is the one who bears the weight. And we are simply walking beside him. That's why he says, you will find rest for your souls. And this isn't a physical rest that can be achieved with a good nap. This is a deep soul-level rest that comes from surrendering our burdens to the one who's able to carry them all. It's the rest of knowing that your salvation is not on your shoulders. The weight of the world is not on your shoulders. The pressure to be perfect is not on your shoulders. All that is on the shoulders of the one who made this invitation. And this is why David in Psalm 23 could write these words, that he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. The Lord is our shepherd. He doesn't drive us into a frantic pace. He gently guides us to a place of rest so that our souls can be refreshed. This is the starting point of true rest. Not something that we take for ourselves, but something that we receive from Jesus. So, if Jesus is offering such a wonderful gift, why do we resist it? Why do we resist rest? Why do we find it so incredibly hard to truly rest? If you're anything like me, you've probably had a long weekend at one point in time where you felt more exhausted on a Tuesday morning than you did on Friday night. Right? Why? Because you tried to jam every single activity imaginable in that long weekend, right? You suddenly said to yourself, well, I have all this time. Now I can do these things that I've been putting off because I've got all this time to do it. And come Tuesday, you're more exhausted than you were on Friday. See, we resist rest for a few key reasons, and they are rooted in our broken human nature. I think that the three big ones are pride, performance, and distractions. So let's look at these one at a time. First of all, pride, right? This is the one that says, I can't stop. Everything will fall apart without me. It's the superhero complex. It's the belief that you are the indispensable person at work. You're the indispensable person at home or in the ministry. And we're so used to carrying the weight that we've made our burdens a part of our identity. Now, I remember talking to a man who ran a very successful business. He worked 70 hours a week, and he was proud of it. When I asked him if he ever took a day off, his answer was, no, because rest is for the weak. He truly believed that if he stopped, the entire enterprise would fall. His pride was so intertwined with his productivity that he couldn't imagine stepping away. He had forgotten the words of Psalm 127 verse 1, which says, unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. You see, he was trying to build a house on his own strength, and it was fragile. It was unstable. Second thing that trips us up is performance. For many of us, our self-worth is tied to our accomplishments. We believe that we're only as good as our last project, our last promotion, or our last success. We believe that we have to earn rest, so we grind ourselves into the ground. We think that rest is a reward for a job well done. But Jesus offers rest to the weary and burdened, not to the ones who've checked off every item on their to-do list. This is a subtle but dangerous lie. It makes us think our identity is in what we do, not in whose we are. See, the story of Mary and Martha in Luke chapter 10 is the perfect illustration of this. See, Martha was a performer. She was busy doing things for Jesus. She was hustling, she was preparing, she was serving, and she was probably the best host in Galilee. Mary, on the other hand, was sitting at Jesus' feet, resting and listening. And so as the story goes, Martha looks over at Mary sitting at Jesus' feet, and she gets mad because Mary is not helping her. So she complains to Jesus and says, my sister is just sitting there doing nothing, right? And when she complains, Jesus says this to her. Jesus says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. See, Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. See, Martha's problem wasn't her work. It was her attitude. She had let her performance become her focus. And she was worried and upset because of it. And Mary, by contrast, Mary had chosen to rest in the presence of Jesus. She chose relationship over a to-do list. Her rest wasn't an empty space in her schedule. It was a powerful act of worship. Third thing is distractions. We live in a world of constant noise and stimulation. Even when we're not working, we're busy. We go from work to Netflix, from our laptops to our phones, from one distraction to the next. We mistake numbing ourselves out for resting. Right? We fill every spare moment with scrolling, with media, with more noise. The quiet, unhurried space of true rest feels foreign and frankly, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. We don't want to be alone with our thoughts. And so we fill the void with distractions. This is why the prophet Isaiah wrote in Isaiah 30:15 that in repentance and rest is your salvation, in quietness and trust is your strength. We cannot find true strength in the noise. We find it in the quiet. We find it in the unhurried space where we can be still and know that He is God. And this brings us to the core of our message. How do we move from a culture of busyness to a life of rest? And the answer is in the practice of Sabbath. The practice of Sabbath. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9 to 11 says, "So then, there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. For whoever has entered God's rest has also rested from his works as God did from his. Let us therefore strive to enter that rest so that no one may fall by the same pattern of disobedience." This passage is talking about more than just a day off. It's talking about a spiritual reality, a Sabbath rest that is available to the people of God. It is a faith practice. But sometimes, you know what, in church, Christianese, we throw around the word Sabbath, right? And we confuse it because we think Sabbath means just not working, right? Simple definition would say, well, Sabbath means you don't work on that day, but it's not just not working. It's an intentional time to stop, to be, and to remember. That's what Sabbath is. A time to stop, to be, and to remember. It's a day to declare to God, to the world, and most importantly to ourselves, that God is in control and I am not. Think about that for a second. We live as if the world depends on our labor. We feel like if we stop, everything will fall apart. But the Sabbath is a weekly act of defiance against that lie. When you stop working for a day, you are making a powerful statement of faith. You're saying, God, my worth is not in my work. My provision is not in my paycheck. My identity is not in my accomplishments. You alone are the source of all things. Your grace is sufficient. Your love is enough. See, the Sabbath is a reminder that the universe doesn't depend on us. It's the Creator, not the creation, who holds it all together. You know, as we read about in Genesis, when God created the world, the very first thing that we see God doing after 6 days of incredible creative labor is to rest. Genesis 2 verse 2 says, "By the seventh day God had finished the work that he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work." So if God rested, why do we think that we don't need to? We were made in his image, right? And being made in his image, part of that image is the rhythm of work and rest. Rest is not a sign of weakness, as that man said, that rest is for the weak. Rest is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of trust. It's a sign that you're relying on God's sovereignty, not your own strength. It's a way to let go of the burdens that you were never meant to carry and to take on the light yoke of Christ. And this is a message, I think, for every single person in this room. For the young person, your Sabbath is a chance to unplug from the constant stream of social media and the pressure to be on all the time. It's a day to truly be with people, to be in nature, to be in the Word without the constant noise. It's an opportunity to remember that your identity is not found in likes, in follows, or performance, but in Jesus. For the working professional and the parent, your Sabbath is a sacred space to say, the bills will still be there tomorrow. The laundry can wait. The emails can wait. It's a day to re-engage with your family, to play, to laugh, and to simply exist without the need to be productive. It's a day to recharge your soul and to reset your priorities. And for the senior people in this group, tomorrow I'll be 1 year closer to being a senior as well. But to the seniors in this room, your Sabbath is a beautiful witness, right? In a culture that worships busyness, your unhurried life is a profound statement. It's an opportunity for deep, unhindered prayer, for time in the scriptures, for enjoyment of the simple blessings of God's creation. Your rest can be a powerful testimony to the grace of God. But remember, the goal is not to have a perfect Sabbath. The goal is to start a practice. It's a spiritual discipline. It's a choice to be intentional about what we value. It's not about legalism, it's about freedom. Right? It's a gift from a loving God who knows that we need it. He gives us rest to run with Him again, not to run away from Him. He gives us rest to restore our souls so that we can finish the assignment that He has given us. Last week we were talking about the fact that each of us has been given an assignment from God, and that assignment is not over until He either comes back or He calls us home. So the rest that He gives us is so that we can accomplish and finish that assignment that He has given us. So as we prepare to leave today, I want to give you a challenge, right? A very practical challenge. I want you to ask yourself, what does true rest look like for me? What does true rest look like for me? And then I want you to make a plan. And so the challenge is this. I want you to plan a weekly Sabbath where you truly unplug to recharge. Where you unplug to recharge. And this will look different for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but here are a few ideas to get you started. Number one, plan your stop. Plan your stop. So pick a 24-hour period, whether it's Saturday evening to Sunday evening, or maybe Sunday morning to Monday morning, but pick a 24-hour period and then mark it in your calendar as Sabbath. When I was a youth pastor in Zimbabwe, one of the things that our executive pastor always used to say to me is, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist, right? Meaning that anytime he gave us an idea or asked me to do something, if I didn't write it down, or if he asked me to do something, I didn't write it down and give it to him, if I was telling him a report, and if I didn't give it to him in writing, it doesn't exist. Same principle here goes, that if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to happen, right? Most of the times we prioritize what's on our calendars. So I want to challenge you to take that 24-hour period in your week, whatever day that is, from morning to evening or evening to evening, but take that and mark it on your calendar as Sabbath. And then when that time starts, you're done. No more work, no business is done during that time, no errands. You are declaring that God is in control. You are giving that time to God for those 24 hours, right? So you plan your stop. Number two, unplug to recharge. So for at least a portion of your Sabbath, put your phone on silent. Turn off the notifications. And for the younger generation, this might be the most difficult and most important step. But put your phone in another room. Put it away. Allow yourself to be present with God, with others, and with your own thoughts without constant digital interruption. So plan your stop, unplug to recharge. Number three, choose life-giving activities. Your Sabbath is not a time for mindless consumption. It's a time for mindful reflection, right? So don't take a Sabbath and say, okay, this is my opportunity to binge watch all these Netflix shows that I have been putting aside, right? It's not a time for mindless consumption. This is a time for mindful reflection. Go for a walk in nature, read a book, cook a meal with your family, play a board game, have a conversation without a screen between you. Go to a park and just sit and watch the world go by. Do something that refreshes your soul, not drains it. Number four, practice being still. The core of Sabbath is being still and knowing that God is God. So find a quiet space, even if it's just for 15 minutes, and simply be with Him. Don't ask for anything. Don't have a list of things to confess. Just sit in His presence. The psalmist reminds us in Psalm 46, verse 10, to be still and know that He is God. God says, be still and know that I am God. This is the key that unlocks that rest for our souls. And maybe you're sitting there and you're thinking, man, I've been running so hard for so long that the thought of stopping feels terrifying. I get it. But we're told to take a Sabbath. Remember that you're not a human doing, you're a human being. Your value is not in what you accomplish. It is in who you are in Christ. And He's inviting you this very day to come to Him and rest. Be still and know that I am God. Let's pray.